Busy day in Washington. Let's get more now with our political panel. We're joined live by Democratic strategist Gavin Reynolds, who is the former speechwriter to Vice President Kamala Harris, and Republican strategist Kathy Barnette, who recently served as National Grassroots Director for Vivek Ramaswamy's 2024 presidential campaign. Kathy, I just want to start with you and these tariffs and the retaliation we were just hearing about there from Canada and the European Union.
Yeah.
Are these tariffs, given the reaction that we're seeing, are these a smart economic decision by the president?
We will see in 2 years. I stand here today, like most of us, with a tremendous amount of faith in what we have heard from Commerce Secretary of Commerce Lucknick, as well as Donald Trump. And it makes sense on paper. Donald Trump has 2 years to bring it into fruition. But, you know, I wish that we had a foreign policy of please and thank you. Unfortunately, we don't. So what is the purpose of these tariffs? The purpose is we want to bring production back to American soil. Every American should be 100% for such a thing. Our industries have been decimated. We've subsidized the world. And Donald Trump is saying, I wish the foreign policy could be please and thank you, but it's not. We're going to have to incentivize others around the world to bring that production back to this country. So far, it is working. What we do know is that for every $1 trillion of investment, Apple just signed up saying they're going to invest $500 billion. For every $1 trillion, the GDP goes up by 1%. According to Lucknick, again, he's
that's a different
expecting
matter.
in 4
that
years
Apple investment,
to have revenues of $1 trillion.
I mean, that's not related to tariffs, the Apple investment. So let's just put that aside for a second. And Gavin, I just want to bring you in on these tariffs. We heard there the president saying, you know, of course, he'll respond to what the EU said it's going to do, to what Canada did in terms of tariffs. I mean, how close do you think we are to a massive global trade war on the president's hands?
I mean, in response to what Kathy was saying, I personally don't see any indication that these tariffs are sound economic policy or that anything about them is working. All I'm seeing is that the economy is cratering. Look, I think we saw there is a place for targeted strategic tariffs, right, as part of a broader industrial policy. We saw a little bit of that under President Biden, but President Trump is taking a vastly different approach. And quite frankly, it's hard to quite pinpoint exactly what it is. And there's some days it feels like it's actually a bona fide, protectionist sort of economic policies, but other days it seems more just like a grand negotiating tactic. But whatever they are, I think it's important to be clear that as these tariffs go into effect, which they are going into effect, they're going to hurt American consumers because they operate as taxes. So businesses are not just going to eat these costs, who are importing foreign goods. They're going to pass them on to consumers. Kathy, that's you and me. So prices are going to go up. And this is a time right now when Americans are saying they can't take any more of these price increases in this inflationary environment. With these retaliatory tariffs that our former trade partners are now imposing on us, this is going to cause the economy to go into a further tailspin. And so that's going to hurt our exporters very hard in return. And even if they are just threats, right? Like we are seeing the stock market respond, and we're hearing the R word, that's recession, be thrown around right now, which is
Kathy,
very
what's your response to that in terms of the economic impact here? We have seen the stock market, recover a little bit, but it's been a tumultuous couple of days on the market. And, we're looking at something like, inflation, cost of living, prices. These are all things that the president ran on. And many economists say that tariffs might have the opposite effect. Yeah,
well, let's just frame it like this, is that what we have been doing is not working. Right now, we have $2 trillion in annual deficit, and that is going to be inherited by our children, and we are strangling the economy. Now, what we do know is that when Donald Trump left office in 2020, Biden and Harris inherited an inflation rate of 1.2%. Today, when Donald Trump came back into office, it was a cumulative of 24%. So that is on the Biden Biden and Harris administration, not Donald
was a
Trump.
small
What we're
matter, of
seeing
course,
right
of
now
the
is that at some
coronavirus
point, some
pandemic in between, but
adult
yes.
is going to have to walk into the room and look at where we are. Right now, we have tremendous trade balance deficits between China, Canada, Switzerland, Mexico. And at some point, someone has to say, what do we need to do to get our country back on the right footing? The stock market will learn and will realize and will move forward. I spent 4 years in that industry. I understand the mindset that is going on right now, but we have never had a president to stand and to be as bold as Donald Trump is and doing the very thing that we should want, which is to bring production back onto U.S. soil. And whether that production that goes towards, whether it's tariffs or whether it's investments, that, and if you don't want to pay the tariff, then produce your product here. That's what I mean by investment.
Kathy,
that will have real impact and
in the interest of time,
and a
Kathy,
real benefit to the American people.
Let me just jump
you may
in
not
here.
see it in the short term, but it is coming.
I just want to get to the Department of Education here, just while we have time. Gavin, just coming back to you here, we saw big time cuts in that department. This is obviously something that's been in the crosshairs of Republicans for a long time. We just heard from a representative of a teachers union. What do you make of the way that this administration now might start to reshape kind of the infrastructure, the federal infrastructure anyway, of the education system?
So I think it's very important that you had on Frederick Ingram a few minutes ago. It's important that we listen to those who are on the ground, who are with the teachers and with the students. I'm very concerned with the steps the Trump administration is taking here. And we have to recognize what the end game is, and that's the complete dismantling of the Department of Education. At the same time, I think it's important that we acknowledge, right, that Congress is the only actor here with statutory authority to actually shut down the Department of Education. And Donald Trump does not have 60 votes in the Senate to do that. But still, Secretary McMahon told Fox News yesterday that the president's directive to her was to, quote, shut down the Department of Education. And so I think the Trump administration right now is looking for creative ways, non-legislative ways to do that. And that's these layoffs. And this is not like USAID. This is a Department of Education which invests billions of dollars right here in the U.S. in terms of the future leaders of our country, the future, economic generators. That's $268 billion a year that the Department of Education is investing in loans and grants to help our kids go to college, and $125 billion for K through 12 education alone, because education is very, very expensive in this country. And so I'm very concerned that these layoffs will frustrate the very important mission of the Department of Education, and there will be long-term ramifications for the young people right now who need to get a quality education, who we're counting on and relying on to lead our country into the future.
We'll have to leave it there. A great discussion. Thank you to you both for coming on. Gavin Reynolds, former speechwriter with Kamala Harris, and Kathy, of course, as well, with the Vivek Ramaswamy campaign. Thank you to you both, Kathy Barnette.
Thank you.